Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Mazda has been named Consumer Reports' safest new car brand. It starts with our approach. Every Mazda comes standard with proactive safety features, so you're more aware of what's around you, more focused on the road ahead, and ready before problems ever start. Mazda, more of what matters most to you. Go to MazdaUSA.com to learn more. Consumer Reports does not endorse or promote any product.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass podcast with Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about the victim mind. I don't know, there's a lot of traits out there that, really are unique to being a victim. People, you think, how does this happen to me? How did, I end up being the one who's, stuck with this bad lot in life? Well, you know what? It's what you present about yourself and who you are that ends up really affecting what happens to you. Mm-hmm. People are always like, I'm always worried. I actually remember a story from one of the Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I have a friend of mine. And he always had that kind of, I don't think he described it as the victim mentality, but he might have. But he always was like, he was always worried he was going to lose his money. Mm-hmm. So, of course, he lost all his money.
Right. And
I was like, well, I guess, I don't know that I really see it. And he talked about, he gives an example. Oh, his daughter was in a car crash and hurt somebody, and the guy ended up suing him and taking all his money. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that happened because he had the victim mind. And I'm like, really? I don't see the tie. Mm-hmm. But the more I look at things, I actually do. He just didn't go into detail to kind of build up how you get there, and it just, I didn't get there in my mind, but it's there. You can really see these things play out. So, I talked about last week, about kidnapping and different things and how these things kind of happen. And I actually, did a lot of training with sex trafficking and like that, and people, being abducted and whatever. And there are very unique traits that people seek out. Now, obviously, anybody can be a victim. Anybody can be mugged in a dark alley. Anybody can, be abducted and forced into slavery, or anything can happen. But there's a ridiculously high percentage of people with specific traits that end up with these things happening to them. And it's because when the bad guys look at you, they're like, oh, that person's confident and not going to put up with shit. It's not going to be worth my effort because it's going to be too much work. Mm-hmm. Whereas if they look at you and they're like, ooh, that's somebody I can control and dominate, then they're going to, and it doesn't necessarily mean how big you are or whatever. It's just kind of how people walk, how they are, how their mind is, and how you interact with other people. People can see it and read this in you. And, they were talking about with the, with sex trafficking, that 70% of the people who become victims of sex trafficking are people who were abused or whatever by a family member. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that when they seek out somebody, they can see the traits in you. And I am in no way suggesting that you're abused by a family member because you have these victim traits. I'm saying when horrible things like that happen to you, a lot of people develop these traits, and then the bad people can kind of spot it. Mm-hmm. And because, I don't expect a 5-year-old to be one way or another. I expect, but that's, something you need to kind of be aware of. So, I don't know. I wanted to talk about, how that was. There's a lot of weird traits that you wouldn't think of as, attributed to victims.
Right.
You had a list?
No.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I had a list.
You had a list.
Oh, okay. So we can talk about that. Let me pull it up. So, like they talk about the average victim, like they say in a relationship, people who end up in abusive relationships, they always say, well, I can change him.
Right.
I can, he didn't mean to do it. And if I just keep trying, if I love him enough, if I hang in there long enough, he'll come around to my way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, I think the root of it is more they want to help other people and they want to change the world.
Right.
Like,
and they think if they work
don't
hard
get me wrong,
enough.
you can be the president and a strong, powerful leader and want to change the world, but that's just one aspect of it. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But it's I want to help everybody, but you actually end up getting to the point where you see other people as having more value than yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the martyr thing, because it's not, I don't think, the disciples who died for Christ were, had that victim mindset. That's not really where I'm going with this.
Yeah. But it's a lot, when you have, you see people that have an alcoholic spouse or child and they enable them.
Right.
It's kind of the same sort of same
exactly
sort of thing.
The same, sort of thing. And it's, those kids are bullied. I need to look out for them. I was talking to a kid the other day, and the kid tells me, well, I want to go look at this college that's in a bad neighborhood, but I don't want my mom to go with me because, well, I wouldn't want her to get hurt.
Right.
Well, yeah, but what about you? And that's I guess kind of where I'm going with this. Like another story I think of, and again, this is a story I actually heard from somebody who it actually happened to, and they were talking about the sex trafficking and like that, and getting caught in a bad situation, and young girl like 13 years old. And her friend brings her in somewhere and is like, well, you need to go in that back bedroom and stay there at this party. Mm-hmm. And she looks around and she sees people with all kinds of stacks of cash and different things like that. And she's like, well, wait a minute. I feel like maybe they're going to be doing drugs, and she probably thinks they're going to be dealing drugs and doesn't want me to see that. I need to stay and protect her.
Right.
My friend. And instead of, it never once occurs to this person, hey, she's sending me into the back room because they're going to come in the back room and do bad things to me. Mm-hmm. Not once does the fear for your own self come into play, but instead you're just worried about protecting others. And I'm not going to let that happen, and I'm tough and whatever. Mm-hmm. But then, and that's a weird, like, that's not what I would have thought of as a trait of a victim, but it's always there.
Right.
You kind of, you see it over and over again,
right. Let it happen to me so it doesn't happen to somebody else.
And that's, one of the things that they do, that a lot of the trafficking guys, they'll say, well, if you don't come with me willingly, I'm going to abduct your sister. Mm-hmm. And, you don't want it to happen to her. And they're like, well, that makes sense. Better me than her, instead of, hey, let me go to an adult and I'm going to stop this from happening to anybody.
Right.
And it just, or I'm going to come back and get your mom and you won't be able to stop it. Mm-hmm. And this weird, and you would think like, hey, that wouldn't work on me and whatever. And it probably wouldn't. But that's the thing. That's the victim mind. That's, one of the traits. Next thing I have on my list, they're easily influenced by others. And I think that's just, you're constantly seeking the approval of others. I mean, a lot of this comes back to the self-worth, thinking you have value. That's
or don't have value.
Or that's sorry. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If you get out of it by valuing yourself. A lot of that, I'm big on, I've mentioned Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged and that whole mindset of, when you make decisions and choice, that's what gives you value. The more you're an individual, the more you matter and the more you have value. And a lot of people get into that whole kind of socialist groupthink of, well, the greater good, the community, the planet, all these things that are so much bigger than us. And that doesn't mean I want to go pour gas on the ground or whatever, and I don't care.
You can fertilize your lawn with used motor oil, though.
Yeah, that works out?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's a prepper thing right there.
Prepper tip 105.
105? I'm not sure that's advice that I'm going to follow, actually. I'm not necessarily going to go home and dump some motor oil on my yard, but, if you want to do it, all right, I'll trust you. I'm going to tell the EPA where you live. I'm just saying. But, no, that's, you don't want to put other things above yourself. And I'm not saying have a big ego, be crazy, but I'm also saying, you know what, realize you have value. You're, the person that matters. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, kind of want to be rescued, but like I was just saying, they also want to rescue others. They want to go and, whatever. I don't know. I kind of like helping other people, but I also am pretty freaking arrogant and cocky on my own. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, but that kind of thing happens. They always seem to have a lot of shame and self-doubt. Mm-hmm. Another, attribute I've seen is, kids who are really talented at sports and they go in and they just dominate on the field. And some are just cocky and great. Some are just know their place and are at the right place. And then there's other people who go out and dominate and they're like, yeah, but anybody can do it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's not necessarily true.
Right.
Anybody can't just go out and, with the amount of practice and effort that you might be able to get away with, go out and do that. Or get the same grades that you get with the same amount of effort you put in. Mm-hmm. People are different. We're all individuals.
Right.
And that's a good thing, I mean, some of us, we'd all like to be, I date myself, you won't know, but like there's this Hunk Golden movie way back on HBO a million years ago. I don't know. We can't all be him.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll say we can't all be Thor, right? Thor's the cool, handsome guy that women want. We can't all be that. But we all, aren't going to be the smart guy. But you know what? The combination of what we are, accepting what we are, and then kicking ass with it, that's what makes us awesome,
Right.
And that's what makes life a challenge. Obviously there's people that are smarter than me. There's obviously people more fit, more athletic, more, a lot of things. But that's not the point. The point is taking what you got and dominating. And I think, that's what gets you out of this.
Yeah.
It's that self-doubt, shyness, lack of confidence. And then, believe it or not, one of the things is lack of motivation. And these are the things that the bad guys are looking for. That's what they prey on. And you wouldn't think it would be so easy to spot. But as you think about these attributes, kind of notice it in society. And it was funny because I had a certain person in mind when I was learning about all this stuff that I was just kind of, checking these things off as I'm going. Mm-hmm. And just everything kind of fell in. Like exact, phrases and, things like saying, well, if you hurt my sister, and I've heard the same things come out of people's mouth and all these kind of fit together, and it's kind of crazy how eerily, in sync they are. Right. And that kind of made me really think about this a lot more. Mm-hmm. So I came home and, I started thinking about these things and they're going through my head. You had something you were going to share?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to talk about, basically keeping your kids safe.
All right. So, I just talked about, all right, this is what's putting our kid at risk. Now, how you change your kid's attitude?
That's
a little beyond me. That's beyond the scope here, but you have some suggestions.
Yep. All right. So, I mean, you basically want to educate your child on how not to get in bad situations to begin with.
Okay. I like that.
It's not so easy to do, but there's a lot of little things that you can do. So, start with what you do at home. Kids don't really have the knowledge to decide, when it's okay and not okay to open a door for a stranger if they're home alone. Maybe it's just a neighbor, maybe it's, somebody with bad intentions, but you need to, make your kids aware that the doors stay locked and they're not answering the door until they're a certain age. When you're out with your kids, you want to teach them to, stay close by.
Okay.
Kids get scared quickly.
They do.
Especially lost kids. And you need to, teach them, their instincts are to go running, looking for dad and mom. You need to teach them to, stay there, stay put. And, where's the last time you saw them? Stay right there. Because dad and mom is going to come back for you, if they're not shitty. I've left a few of my children at
Joe Dirt.
I've left a few children at malls when I got sick of their shit. You need to teach them how to call for help when it's
okay, when it's appropriate.
When it's appropriate,
and that's the thing. They need to really trust that they can come to you,
right,
with anything. And I hate to say it, you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations with your kids,
right?
And I mean that's the thing. There was another story that a kid who didn't seem to have these negative victim traits just ended up at a party, got drugged, bad things happened, and instead of going back to the family, is like, oh, I'm going to go back where the bad things happen because they already know me there. I don't have to tell my parents. These people already know what happened to me, and they're going to get me. And you're like, well, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. But, trauma doesn't act rationally. You know, it's unique, and people... So, but I think if you talk through these things, like nobody wants to talk to your kids about rape or, any of these horrible things. And it's not just, make sure nobody puts a drug in your drink.
Right.
Well, it's be in control of yourself as far as, hey, I'm not going to leave my drink unattended.
Right.
I'm not going to, but I'm also not going to put myself at a party where bad things are happening and I don't know everyone there.
Right.
It's one thing, you're 5 friends from school and you hang out all the time, you know these people. And their kids are going to go drink and smoke cigarettes, whatever. Things happen, I understand. But you need a level of being on guard.
Right.
And
that is a big thing, though. If you tell your kid to trust their instincts and take off when shit gets weird, then they need to know that they can come and talk to you and tell you about what happened and that you're not going to be angry at them
for what happens around them or whatever.
Right. I know, sometimes the best situation is just take off. I know my kids got good instincts with that. I was living in a cabin.
Is that why he doesn't come to my house
farm
anymore?
Yeah, no, he doesn't trust you.
Okay.
And
but go on.
And I was putting in trim, and I had one of those air compressors.
Okay.
With a nail gun. And I stopped, made dinner, and I forgot to turn the compressor off.
Okay.
And slowly it was leaking out, and it kicked on. That compressor kicked on. And I turned around and looked back at the compressor, and then I looked over where my son was sitting. He wasn't there anymore. It was just an open door, man. He was just running down the street. He wasn't going to wait around and find out what that was.
Nice.
Now, yeah, as far as teaching your kids about, calling for help, calling 911, that sort of thing, you need to teach them as soon as possible, their name, their address, and to stay on the line with the 911 operator and wait till the police get there and they say that it's okay to open the door. But it's a lot of that has to do with actually talking to your kids, which is really a lot of people really hate it, but it's something about a open line of communication. They have their cell
phone in their hand and they're texting, or no?
Slap that shit out of their hand.
Yeah,
Who pays for it? If they're old enough to pay for their own cell phone, they can do whatever they want with it.
All right.
Slap that shit out of their hand so fast.
You think there's a little hostility here?
Yeah, no, I got a little bit of that for my kid, man. He's going through a crisis right now because I turned the internet off in the house. He actually had to go outside the past couple days.
He was blinded by the sun.
Yeah, it's like traumatic for him.
Yeah. No, that sounds right.
Now, if you're out and you come across a kid that's lost, a little kid, there's ways to help them appropriately and ways to not do that. One of the things you want to do when you first come across a kid is you want to get down at their level, so you're not imposing and scary to them, and find out whether or not there actually is a problem, if they need help.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them you're going to stay with them and help them. Get as much information as you can from the kids. Their name, their parents' name, what their parents were wearing, parents' phone number. Then you got to get a hold of police security staff, somebody like that, store staff. You might want to flag down a woman if you're just a dude by yourself, because people will give you dirty looks if you're talking to a strange child.
That's true. Women somehow.
And then you want to stay in the same spot with the kid and make sure the kid doesn't wander off, and make sure the kid isn't left by himself. So that's basically the basic run-in with a lost child. Now, as adults and as people that are interested in looking out for everybody else around them, it's important that you keep aware of these sorts of things. Keep aware of your children's behavior. If they start doing shit like sleeping all the time, or insomnia, or eating more than they normally do, or less frequently than they do. These are all signs that you need to watch out for, because, they won't necessarily tell you if something's wrong.
Right.
You have to read into their personality a little bit. And if you don't ever pay attention to your kid, you're not going to see those things.
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, you really do have to watch to recognize, what's going on. And, talking to your kids, it's not easy.
Yep. And, not even necessarily just your own kids, but, neighbors' kids and, the kids up the street and your kids' friends.
Be involved.
Yep.
No, that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
All right. So now I wanted to segue a little bit, little pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder, if the American population, I kind of feel like, in a way, we're acting like victims, like as far as our politicians are up there. I feel like we're kind of have a lot of those same attributes. I feel like a huge percentage of the voting population are where they're dependent on others. They're not able to provide and take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't have the confidence.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, I guess where I go with this is, the more you provide for yourself, the more you take care of your own things. You have your own health care. You teach your kids. You bring home the money. You're the man. You bring home the bacon. I provide for my family. The more you do that, the more confidence and self-worth you have in you as the individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think when we get away from these things, when you're on the food stamps, when you're, your health care, you have no choice in it. You're just kind of told what you have to do and whatever. You can only go to certain doctors. You can't even pick and choose. Each one of these things takes away a little bit of your individual, self-reliance, and you just feel like, oh, I'm not in control anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to feel and be conditioned like a victim.
Right.
Because you're not in the power. You don't make the decisions for yourself. You can't say, hey, my kid's not going to learn about gay marriage or, whatever. I don't care about gay marriage, but that
it's your choice
decide.
as a parent.
what's
It should
happening
be.
to your kid.
Right.
You know, or I don't want my kid to learn about condoms in school, you know, or whatever. Now, honestly, if you're not teaching about your kid about all that stuff and
Somebody
values and
should.
what happens, somebody should. And there's a lot of parents that aren't, and I don't want to pay for a bunch of babies that, you know, because nobody talked to these kids. That's not the point. My point is, if you're not in control, you lose a little bit of your dignity, and you kind of start to develop more and more of that victim mind. And that's kind of how socialism and communism and these things take over, is the greater good. You know, if just everybody needs help, you know, if there's so many people out there, all these starving kids in America and refugees and veterans and all these people that need help, and you need to separate you from your wallet a little bit and give a little bit more, you're kind of going with that victim mindset of, well, you know, other people, their lives have value, but you may not even be taking care of your own self. You know, when we're worried about all these people having health care, well, what do you have left to take care of your family? Can you afford health care? Can you afford all this stuff on your own? Or are you just left with what they're giving you?
Right.
And the cycle just kind of builds on itself, you know? It kind of gets away from you where, all right, you know, I'm giving a little bit to help, you know, those less fortunate, and, you know, then I'm going to get some back. But, you know, then it just more and more. Well, you know, all kids should be able to go to college. And, you know, it's only fair that we pay for every kid. Well, all right, but now the government decides, all right, where are you going to go to school? And I feel like, I know I've told you guys this and kind of got in this loop a little bit before, but it's that idea that that's what a victim is, you know, is somebody who, well,
Who allows people to make decisions for them.
people, exactly. And then you're not in control. You know, one of the things that I learned about, back to the trafficking, they said, you know, they would try and, you know, well, why don't they just get away? Why don't they just run away when they, you know, are off doing their thing, or, you know, whatever. But you're so afraid of, you know, the power and the force, you know, the way they try and crack down on everything. You know, Hitler was actually big on this, and the kind of manipulating people into that victim mind. I wish I had actually done a little more of my research on that, because I've read books and it had it all, you know, right at my fingertips. But, you know, things he used to do with the Jews is they would, you know, in the kindergartens and stuff, they would call them pigs and play animal games, and the Jews would all be pigs, and, you know, all this weird twisted stuff, you know, and he's actually one of the ones who came up with that whole zero tolerance with guns and like that. And he used to do where, you know, if somebody had a gun, well, you don't just arrest them, you arrest their whole family, because they all must have known and whatever. And it made it so that if you knew your neighbor was doing something wrong, you felt like you had to report it, because you didn't want to get caught up
Right.
in that whole, you know, loop of they're just going to arrest everybody. And it made people so terrified that you actually despised somebody who would have a gun, because how dare they put you at risk?
Right.
You know, and you began to hate, instead of the individual that isn't doing anything against the, you know, laws of nature. Instead, you know, Hitler, who's, you know, enslaving people, putting people in prison, having people, you know, sent off to camps and murdered. These people are victims, and you're allowing it because you kind of get twisted and pushed into
You don't
this.
want to be. You don't want to be.
You don't want it to be you.
Right.
But it just builds, you know? And that's what's so creepy and messed up about it, is it builds and builds. And I feel like, you know, our politicians, you got to look at it like I think I heard Rush say, you know, Rush Limbaugh on his radio show, he was talking about, you know, there's $3 trillion in the budget. And all those politicians just want to be able to control their piece of that $3 trillion.
Right.
They just want power, you know, to their friends, to the whatever. If I can give my friends, you know, their project that's this, then they're going to respect me and like me more, and that's going to be better for me.
Right.
And they all promise us whatever we want to hear, but we keep voting for them, and they never deliver
Right.
what we want. You know,
It's the same.
Republicans were like, oh my gosh, you know, Obamacare, it's so horrible, we hate it. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to rewrite it and give you the exact same thing.
Right.
And you're like, wait, that's not...
We're going to move this decimal point over here and this decimal point over here, and now it's going to be okay.
The people really needed it, but they swore up and down, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take care of you.
Right.
And we just keep going. Oh, well, what else am I going to do? I'm the victim, right? I don't have control over it. But, the more we become self-reliant and take control of our lives, that's kind of how it all ties into, the survival badass, right?
Right.
So it's, the more I can take control of my own life and choose my own destiny, the more I'm not going to become a victim. And the more you can provide for your family, the more you can take care of your own medical needs. Obviously, you're not going to take tumors out of your lungs or whatever, but every step you can take to be more self-reliant, anything you can teach your kids, your family to take care of themselves, is one more step to keeping you from becoming a victim.
All that stuff does is take the power out of somebody else's hands and puts it in your hands.
You can run off into the woods and it'll be okay, whereas, you always have one more option. And I'm not saying running away is the option. I'm saying empower your kids, empower yourself, empower your wife, your family, and, really get into that. I can take care of me. And the more I thought about it, I was even like, ever since Obama and a lot of this, America's posture in the world, the way America acts has been like a victim for the last 10 years. We really have been, on the defensive. Oh, well, are you guys going to be okay if we do this? Is that going to hurt anybody's feelings? We really want to go in and do this, but, I think that might upset people, and people will look at America badly if we do it that way. And we've had that posture, and that's why, the enemy is just really, pouncing on us. And that's why we've been getting hammered, and sure as hell Europe's been that way.
Yep.
Europe's had that victim mind. Europe presents itself as, let me worry about everybody else and not take care of myself. And that's what we're doing with this whole refugee thing and whatever. Let me take care of everybody else because they come first, and it doesn't matter if some of us get killed because, the greater good. You got to think about everybody. And it's not about everybody. You got to take care of yourself first, and then you can help others. And I think that's, really what I wanted to get out tonight is, just really kind of get everybody in that idea of don't be a victim, dominate the world,
Right.
You need to, and it doesn't matter what you want out of life. I'm just saying whatever you want, set yourself up to take it. And don't let other people make decisions for you. And that's where things go wrong, is when you let the world decide for you what your life's going to be. You need to command your own destiny. And that's a new idea since America, That wasn't always the way. Very few people thought like that. Now, I think I just had one more thing to touch on. I was just thinking about way back when I was in Kosovo. And we came across this tugboat, and it had all these refugees, and it's back to that, victim mind, right? So all these refugees paid money. They're so desperate for freedom because they can't take control of their lives for whatever reason, because armies are coming in and people are dominating their villages and whatever, But you kind of get forced into this. I'm so desperate, I'll do anything. So they all load up onto this tugboat, and they come out in the middle of the ocean, and all the engines seize up, and it just stops working. They call the Italian Coast Guard, and they're putting out maydays, whatever, and, the Navy ship I'm on, we're nearby, and we go over, and we end up, fixing some motors and kind of helping them limp along till the Italians can get there and take care of them. But I guess this is happening a lot right now, coming out of Africa. These people are so desperate to get out of Nigeria and all these countries, Sudan, all these places, that they'll do anything. And they're loading these people up on these boats with just, the boats are not even seaworthy in any way. They're handing them a satellite telephone and, here, as soon as you run out of gas, call the Coast Guard and tell them to come get you.
Right.
And that's, don't put yourself where you're in a position that you're so desperate. And you're like, well, these people couldn't take control and, life happened to them.
Yeah.
Yes
and no, but don't let it happen to you. Yeah.
You take control of life. And, that's it. Now, I understand that I did see in this week that there was a new badass out there.
Yeah, Canadian this time.
Canadian? Now, is that even possible? Badass Canadian?
Hey, man, they've been rocking those Mounties for years, man.
All right. So, sniper in Iraq, 2.2 mile kill shot.
Yeah.
And that's
pretty impressive.
The previous record was 1.5, right? 1.5,
1.5, yeah.
So, to 2.2, that's a big leap.
2.2 miles is a long way.
Now, mind you, 50 cal, and it probably said, sorry, eh? Or something like that on the bullet, but, 2.2 miles, that's a badass. Now, I don't think they released a name yet. Maybe they did. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I didn't see one either.
But badass and hats off to you is what I say. And hats off to the guy Spotter, right?
Yeah.
These two guys, they're a team. They both have their place. And to pull that off, that's pretty badass. So, cool on you. I did see there's some new iTunes reviews. You guys keep those coming. Love it. Patreon. You guys enjoying the show? You might want to head over to Patreon. Show us a little love. $1, $2 a month. Be awesome. If everybody who listens to this podcast gave us $1, me and Kevin would be pretty happy.
I quit my job, I tell you that.
I don't know if we'd quit our job, but
there aren't that many people listening.
There aren't that many people, but it's a start in the right direction. So, hey, $1 helps. $2, only half as many people need to do it.
That's right.
So, and hey, you want to send 25? You want to send 50? I'm not stopping you. Who am I to judge? Take charge of what you want. You want to learn how to take care of your family? You need to support the Prepping Badass, right?
That's right.
But also don't throw away your money if that's, if you need your money to feed your family, remember that comes first.
That's right.
I'm just putting that out there.
Now, if you want to get a hold of us, you can contact us by email.
What's the email?
preppingbadass@gmail.com.
All right.
Give us a shout if you got any show ideas, any comments, anything interesting like that. Definitely.
Don't be afraid if there's something you don't want to hear. You're like, you know what, Chuck? I'm tired of your political chit chat.
We did get a bad review because we mentioned Vaseline, and apparently Vaseline is offensive to some people.
So now we only mention it like half the time.
Right.
So, you guys, we listen to your comments. Sometimes we throw them in the can. Yep. Sometimes we take them to heart.
We read them.
For the most part, we just throw them in the can. But, whatever. So, preppingbadass.com. Otherwise, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.